Welcome to the Audacious OBM podcast. I'm your host, Leanne, creator of OBM Academy and founder of Audacious Empires. Each week, my crew and I will explore all things building and scaling an exceptional OBM business. This podcast is here to share how you can charge premium prices, have clients lining up to work with you, and never have to work another weekend again. You can have a thriving OBM business working with the clients you want, when you want, and charging the price you want. It's time to banish mediocre and become the standout, sought after OBM you know you can be. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Audacious OBM. I'm Leanne Woff. And today we are talking creating amazing client service delivery experiences, giving clients what they need, when they need it, the way they need it. So I wanted to tackle this as part of our Creating Amazing Experiences series. And so we've covered why we need to do it. We've covered the onboarding experience to create. Now we're looking at service delivery. So this is the part where you actually do the work, where you deliver, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is map out our delivery process. Now, what I mean by this is look at your service. Look at the service you have sold your client. And I want you to really think about the steps that you take to complete that service and what you need to be able to do it well. So the information that you need, and it might be assets that you need from clients, but just do a map of that because these are our known factors, right? So we always start there. Let's map them out. Now, you can do this using timelines or using milestones. So depending on how you work, if you know that, it usually takes you a week to do a certain thing or 2 weeks to do a certain thing, you could map out your delivery based on that time, or you can do it based on outcome. Okay, once I've taken the brief, that's this milestone. Then I do the first draft. Then and create your milestones. So either way is fine. We just want to get some of our known quantities down, right? Now, once we know the things that have to happen and we know the things that we need to make them happen, I want you to think about communication. I want you to think about what ways could we possibly get all of those assets or get that information sooner in the journey. So I know that I spoke to you in our last episode about my onboarding process and how I ended up creating this massive client onboarding form. But I didn't explain what really led me to do that. And it was when I was looking at my service delivery and I was looking at where are the delay points or where are the bits where we're asking for more things or I can't make a decision. And then I have to go back to the client. And it was these places where I didn't have enough information. And I thought if I could just have all of that information up front, then when I get into delivery, I have my foundation knowledge, but I also have the exact pieces that I need from the client already. And then I can just keep going. Because here's the thing, right? If you're working on something and you're getting some traction and it feels good, everything is making sense, you want to keep doing that. You don't want to stop that boulder from rolling. You want to keep going and get it done. And if we stop and start all the time, we're actually less efficient because we have to get back into understanding what it is we're working on, where we stopped, what we left off, and we switch to something else. So we're context switching too much. So it was that caused me to make that big form. I actually looked at each step of my each step of my process so that I could then get what I needed and the whole project would run smoother. And it worked. The other thing, so not only asking for pieces of information, but the other type of communication I want you to think about is how your client is feeling as you progress through this journey. What are they thinking about? What are they feeling? What are their questions? And what is their perception of what you're doing? Because I know if I work with a supplier and they say to me, yep, cool, it's going to take 1 month to do it. And then I sign off and they do the engagement. And then I don't hear from them for 3 of those weeks. I start to get a little bit nervous. Are they still doing it? Have they forgotten about me? Don't they need my logo? And I create all of these questions in my head that might not be true at all, purely because I've not heard anything. And then I feel the need as a customer to email and go, just checking, I've forgotten, and then hope they don't get offended. And I really think that this is something that we need to tackle better in our OBM businesses, is thinking about what is the client's perception here? Because I know I said to them, I'm going to deliver this thing in 2 weeks. And no, it hasn't been 2 weeks yet. But maybe I need to give them an update before that 2 weeks is up. Even if it is a, hey, I'm just checking in. I wanted to let you know that I've done phase 1 of this job. It's looking good, and I'll be back in touch if I need something more. None of this has to be super impressive or like lots of detail. It is more about easing some of those concerns and answering some of those questions your clients might have. So I want you to think about the important messages along that journey, along that delivery process you just mapped out. And you might have a few different ones of these depending on what services you offer, right? And it's not always going to be the same thing. If your service changes, the process changes, and some of this will translate across, but not always. So you might need a few. So let's map those important messages, answer the important questions, think about our clients. Another thing I want you to do is start to really think about the frequency of your communication. So we work quite closely with clients. We're online business managers. And it might be okay if you were an accountant and you spoke to your clients once a fortnight or once a month, and you had a regular meeting scheduled in, and every quarter you did their tax, and that might work well, and that might be all your clients need. But for OBMs, that's not the case. We are in businesses, and we need our connection with our clients to thrive for their businesses to thrive. So our communication has to be much more frequent. And the more frequent means it needs to be more purposeful. And what I mean by that is we don't want to just send messages to say, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? And it doesn't actually have any substance. We want to communicate clearly. We want to go to them with clear objectives or clear discussion points, so we're not wasting their time, especially if we need to talk to them a lot. And obviously, we still want the friendly approach, but we don't just want conversation for no purpose. So if you are working with OBM clients, think about how you communicate, what form, what mode of communication. Do you meet with them in person? Do you WhatsApp? Do you have a task management system? Do you do Zoom calls? Because if you're frequently talking to someone, the likelihood is you need different modes of communication. You don't want to sit on Zoom all day, every day, just to get a question answered. So I really want you to think about the different ways you can talk to your clients and how frequently they want information from you, and how frequently they actually want to see the progress and how they want to see it, because that matters. So we're looking at, and I know a lot of this is unknown. You might not know the answers to these. I don't know how My clients want me to talk to them. I don't know how often. I don't know if they want me to update them when I finished every phase or when I finished 3 phases. It's always going to change, and there is no exact answer. The best thing that you can do is ask them. And that's what I did. And that's how I built out my delivery process. The next thing that I want you to factor in is the points where you're going to need sign off or you're going to need permission to proceed to the next step. So if you're looking at your process and you're like, okay, here is a clear cut. Draft 1 is finished. Before I do draft 2, I'm going to need it signed off. And then I want you to factor in when you could possibly start communicating that with your client so that they know, hey, when we get to this stage, this time, this date, I'm going to need you to set aside some time to review this. Here's how much time I think. Here's what it is. Here is the impact if we don't get it done on time. Now, this is a big one. Sometimes we forget to explain why we need it, and we assume the client knows. Well, they know if they don't do their bit, I can't do my bit. Yes, you're correct. They absolutely do know that, but they don't know the impact on the project as a whole because they're not in it. They're not looking at the whole timeline because that's your job. So we need to explain to them, hey, if I can't do this bit on time, it means this piece is going to be delayed. We're not going to get to the printer in time, and then we won't be able to have this asset at all. So try and be as clear as you can just to create that full understanding. The less guessing our clients have to do, the better. Okay. Next thing, factor in surprise and delight. Now, this bit is my favorite. So we've looked at our process. We've mapped out when we're talking to clients, what we're talking to them about, the different things that we might need from them, the different points that they need to be aware of, that we need them to keep some time aside for us. How we're communicating with them. Do we have an email nurture? Do we have a process where we send a text message? Is it client calls? What does this look like? Now we get to our surprise and delight. And that's where I look at the process and I go, right, now what other ways and what other things can I implement to make them feel good or to make this journey easier? And that's when I start sending gift boxes or pencils, or I remember I used to send my clients sprout pencils. So it's like a gray lead pencil, and once you finish using it, you put it in a pot with soil and it turns into a herb. It grows. Just different things depending on what your clients like and need. It might be that you work with a lot of ADHD clients, and so instead of sending them sprout pencils, you might send them an ADHD organizer planner. There's so many different things you can do that will make your client's journey easier and just give that little bit of a perk for them. Hey, they've really thought about this and they thought about me, and this is amazing. And just keep, as long as we're delivering everything we need to deliver, we're communicating, and then we've got this extra thing, like the experience is amazing. Like we're trying to not just do the mediocre experience that anyone could do. We're trying to be amazing. And I think that this is a really easy way to do it. The other thing I want you to think about is points of personalization. Now, what I mean here is life is not linear, and it's not like that for our clients either. And so it doesn't matter how much we plan. Sometimes our plans aren't going to come off the way we want them to. And we can't account for every situation that will ever occur. So for instance, in OBM Academy, one of my students, her dad passed away. And I could have just continued on my way, delivering the content and going above and beyond and trying to make sure everybody understood what we were doing and make sure they were progressing and they were getting the results they needed. But right then, this student didn't need that. What she needed was someone to see her and appreciate her and recognize what she was going through. And so instead, I sent her flowers. And she was completely surprised and amazed because I thought about it and because there is no way I could have assumed that was going to happen. And I did what I thought I could do that might make it just the teeniest, tiniest bit easier or for her to feel less alone. And so that's what I'm saying. What you could have is like a backup list. Okay, if we know that someone's sick or having a hard time, here's a list of different things or different suppliers where we can source something and send it to them. Or it could be a card. It could be a special pack you have in your office. It could be, okay, if I have a client and they're going to have a birthday, this is what we're going to do. If I have a client and they're getting married, this is the kind of thing I want to do. So look for some of those points where it might not be clear cut, but you want the human element of you to come out there. All right, and then the final thing. This is a really big one. Are you listening? It is listen closely. Listen closely. A lot of the time, our clients are telling us what they need, but we're not hearing it. And filling that need will make the experience amazing for them. So if they're repeating something like, I'm really, really visual, and you keep sending them emails that are written, they're going to be frustrated that entire time. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you missed the opportunity to present something in the way they needed it to make it feel amazing. If they're saying to you, I'm just wondering where this is up to. I'm just wondering where this is up to. Do you need anything from me? That's telling you you're not communicating enough. So I want you just to listen to the things that aren't being said or the things that are being said, but we're not paying enough attention to them because we're so involved in meeting our deliverables and just getting it done. So if we can look for things like that and be aware and pay more attention and then put in place some things to improve those, your experience will be amazing. So I hope that has helped and it has given you an understanding of how you can craft an intentional, amazing client service delivery experience with you. So not only do you deliver exceptional work, but they feel incredible the whole time. Thanks for listening. I'll chat to you next week. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of The Audacious OBM. We hope this episode has helped you move forward in your journey to being a standout and sought after OBM. If you enjoyed the episode, take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help other OBMs just like you. If you're interested in learning more about OBM Academy and all that it offers, head over to audaciousempires.com to get all the juicy details. We'll be back next week.